Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Oscar Buzz. Trevor here, and today we are talking about Nope, the latest film from Jordan Peele. I'm a bit late on this. I did actually see this opening night, but I wanted to take some time to sort through a lot of my thoughts because a lot of thoughts I did have. I don't think that this movie is like as confusing as some people are saying it is. But there's a lot to think about. You can enjoy this on a surface level. There's also a lot that you can dig into. I, being me, decided to spend way too much time trying to figure things out, and I'm probably very wrong, but hey, it's in movies, they're subjective, so let's have fun. I'm going to start out non-spoilery, and give brief, like, awards, thoughts, my rating, etc., and then we're going to get into some spoilery analysis stuff. So, let's get going. With the non-spoiler part, this movie is probably Jordan Peele's most strongly technically crafted film. Just some stunningly horrifying imagery. Again, without getting into spoilers, but there are some great, like, in-camera, like, effects that are created that are just, like, gorgeous and terrifying, and I want to hang them on a wall, but also never look at them again. And I think a lot of that also does come down to Hoyt van Hoytema. Just an incredible cinematographer. I can't wait to see what he does on Oppenheimer, playing with some black and white. When we're talking about text, I mean, it was really, really strongly edited. I've seen some people complain about the pace, which I don't really get, and I do prefer generally slower paced films, but like, I don't know, I thought that it was actually very well structured and paced. It does take a bit to get started in the first act, but I don't know. I felt like it was pretty consistent with a lot of the beats that it was hitting. It felt like it had a fairly nice tempo to it. I think the sound work and the score, just in general, like, it's probably the strongest aspect of the film, if I'm honest. I mean, the score from Michael Abels, like, insane. I've been listening to it a lot on its own because it's that good. And then the sound work, also really, really strong. I saw this in IMAX, really suggesting this at least in the theater where you can have a good, like, surround sound system. It's in the trailer. There's blood that's being dumped on the house, and you're trapped inside the house with some characters, I won't say who, and it's horrifying. It is absolutely horrifying. The sound, like, whoa, with the surround sound, absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Move into to some of the performances, because Daniel Kaluuya is good, but this is a very, like, underscored performance for him. It isn't, like, as big and flashy as we saw him in, like, for instance, Judas and Black Messiah. But Keke Palmer is a star. She's so good. She's so good. One of the most, like, magnetic performances I've seen this year. You just, like, you're with her from the start. She's so, like, attention grabbing. She slaps you in the face and says, "Watch me," and I'm like, yes, I will. I can't wait to see what she does next, because she's, like, I mean, she's kind of having a year between Lightyear and this, and I'm hoping this breaks through into a, like, big, long film career for her, because it isn't like she's, like, an unestablished actress, but I haven't seen her that much in, like, the film scene and leading roles. She needs to be leading everything. She's so good. I mean, in a perfect world, she'd get a Golden Globe for comedy musical actress. I don't know if that would happen, but, like, she would absolutely deserve it. So we can kind of transition to the narrative. I'll stay non-spoiler. The narrative worked for me. Does everything make sense? No, not everything makes sense. Are there plot holes? There are definitely plot holes. But I really don't like that as a main way to critique the film. It's okay for a movie to have narrative holes because it isn't trying to have, like, this immaculately crafted narrative. This is a film that I think is quite obviously focusing more on theme and what it's doing with a lot of its metaphors. I don't think Jordan Peele cared too much about telling a tightly written story. He's just wanting to evoke emotions within, which is perfectly fine. Not every film has to have a perfectly written narrative. That isn't the only way to make a good movie. It can also be about theme. It can be about emotion. It can be whatever you want, as long as whatever is focused on is done well. I'm perfectly fine with it. I don't like that CinemaSins kind of criticism where it's just every single plot hole is considered a negative against the film. And speaking of themes, some very interesting stuff. Some very, very interesting stuff that we'll definitely dive into. First, quick word stock. It was really high on Gold Derby for screenplay. The only thing that makes sense to me for this is sound, which I could see happening. I don't see VFX as a thing. It feels a bit too crowded. And, like, yeah, screenplay doesn't seem like it's a thing. None of the actors, like, cinematography, no score. Like the only thing that really does make sense to me to happen is sound, and I honestly think it could happen. At least like the Sound Guild, I can't remember what they're called, but the Sound Guild, I think could probably get nominated, at least for sound mixing with the guilds, because like as I mentioned, the sound mixing astonishingly good. I would love to see it nominated at the Oscars. I don't know if it'll happen. I think getting the short list is definitely possible. I mean, A Quiet Place Part 2 made the short list last year, and I know that was a previous nominee, but like they aren't object to considering horror movies, especially considering this is Jordan Peele. So I can definitely see it happening. My rating of this film is an 8.5 out of 10. That is where the non-spoiler section of this review stops. If you haven't seen this movie yet, stop here. I would very, very, very highly suggest you see this in the theater. Like, please, go watch. It's good. It's pretty good. Let's get into some analysis. So I think immediately you can recognize there's a strong theme of protagonist versus nature, man versus nature, and particularly the human interaction with other life and life that we don't understand. All the title cards featured there at the film are creatures, whether that be Gordy the ape, then we got a couple of the horses, we have Jean Jacket, the UFO, who is revealed to be a creature by the end of it, who's eating people. It's interesting though, because Peele takes a sympathetic approach to like nature and the creatures, while also showing their exploitation and how the creatures can also exploit. And I think at the core of this film is a cycle of exploitation, which I find very, very fascinating, and is a very prevalent theme throughout Jordan Peele's work. So from the opening scene, we have Gordy the ape. He's being exploited by the entertainment industry. Gordy is, obviously and rightfully angered about his exploitation. He fights back, acting out in violence, attacking the cast before he is shot and killed. And I think that's a pretty familiar cycle that we can see, even if we take out, the fact that he's like a creature. We see people exploited, and you kind of push back, and they're immediately shut down, and in some very unfortunate cases killed. But just before being shot, Gordy turns to Jupe, Steven Yeun's character, and he doesn't attack. After we see him brutally mauling the rest of the cast, instead he reaches out his hand for a fist bump, which is a thing they did on the show. Oh, it's so cute. I will say Jordan Peele on Twitter put up like the sitcom intro to the show that Jupe was on. It's very fun. I highly suggest you watch it. But while all this is happening, Jupe notices a shoe standing straight up on the set. So obviously all this would be incredibly traumatic for anyone, but rather than dealing with that trauma, Jupe frames the shoe, and he falls into the fame machine through this, where under capitalism you use your trauma for profit rather than, actually dealing with the trauma. It's all about making more money rather than taking care of yourself. So Jupe quite literally says that he is renting out the room where he stores all of this stuff from that day where the cast was, I'm assuming, killed. I mean, it seemed like the sister was alive, which we saw later, but not in great condition. But he's renting out that room to people in need of a spectacle to look at. You're creating spectacle. That's another core of this film, I think, is spectacle. Because, I mean, we talked about the creature title cards, but the opening title card of the film is a Bible verse that reads, "I will cast abominable filth upon you, make you vile, and make you a spectacle." Exploitation was cast upon Gordy by the entertainment industry. He was made vile in his rebellion, and his vile act became a spectacle. Look at the verse that starts off the film. It can be applied to so many things throughout this film. So let's continue. When Jupe grew up, he felt as though he was special and that Gordy didn't attack him, I think because he had the ability to bond with creatures. So when Jean Jacket, our resident UFO or UAP or whatever it's called, appears at his carnivalish thing, Jupiter's Claim, he immediately assumes that Jean Jacket is for him, and it's, he's chill with Jean Jacket, right? And this isn't because he's a maniacal, self-centered person. It's to make sense of his trauma and, and still have a successful career. And to do that, you have to be self-centered and at times insane. That's the world that we're built in. You have to do some not great things in order to be successful. So Jupe begins to operate a show where people can come and see Jean Jacket. He lures the UFOs out with horses. Look at the levels of exploitation for a second. He's exploiting Jean Jacket and the spectacle for a show, and then to get that spectacle, he is exploiting the horses, which are being eaten by Jean Jacket. Cycle, a circle of exploitation, if you will. So I haven't forgot about OJ and him, and let's detail them. So they also see Jean Jacket. And what was their first thought? Exploitation for fame. Immediately, their goal becomes trying to get a video of it so they can become famous. They got to get the Oprah shot. They rope in others to join them in their fame hunting endeavor, all while trying to justify what they're doing with various moral claims. And everyone, both us, the audience, and them, the characters, know that they're just in it for the fame. They got to justify it to themselves. And it's to the extent that the climactic moment of the film isn't the destruction of Jean Jacket. And like, maybe we're not supposed to feel good about that because of the exploitation. Jean Jacket, for all we know, wasn't doing anything wrong until people were looking at it, which we'll get into in just a second. But the climactic moment of the film is getting the all-important picture. That is what we're trying to do. So let's talk about looking, because OJ figures out that looking at Jean Jacket is what agitates the setup by the horse. Looking at their reflection earlier when they're on the TV commercial, and then it, kicks her up, whatever, right? So this means that our characters, with a UFO visible, rather than impulsively looking, as is humanly natural, our protagonists must act against human nature and avoid spectacle. Now let's return to that opening scene featuring Gordy. Jupe thought that Gordy didn't attack due to their bond, when in reality, Gordy likely didn't attack because there was a tablecloth that obstructed Jupe from making direct eye contact with Gordy. Jupe inadvertently and unknowingly was following the unknown rules. Don't look at the spectacle. And in the world that Jordan Peele has created, a cycle of exploitation seems to be followed whenever spectacle is involved. There's plenty more to discuss, ranging from the on-the-nose comedy of the TMZ reporter, sorts of spectacle and fame, the fascinating power hierarchies, to how horses are used to exemplify the morality of Russian, to the subtlety around the conversation surrounding the erasure of Black history. I will actually touch on that. A point is made about the very first assembly of photographs used to create a motion picture being a black man on a horse, which we don't know the name of. There's a full Wikipedia article about the white guy who shot the frames, but the black man who's actually in the frame lost to history. So then we have the white director who M and OJ ask to help them capture their footage, but he becomes greedy and loses all of the footage when both he and his camera were devoured by Jean Jacket. He had to get the shot that he wanted, and because of that, erased the success and economic prosperity of our black protagonists. Really interesting what Jordan Peele's saying there. So I could talk about this movie for ages, but I need to stop myself at some point. So to conclude, Jupe, M, and OJ all exploit Jean Jacket for their own fame, all in their own ways. Looking at Jean Jacket, both in a literal sense, but also in a figuratively exploitative fame hunting sense, makes Jean Jacket become vile. And in the end, Jean Jacket was turned into a spectacle. Leave it to the master, Jordan Peele, to make a summer spectacle film about the horrors of human obsession with spectacle.